Melly Chow.
Leslie Chapman.
I'm Sarah Adams.
Christina Long.
I run our competitive product research team, and I'm an executive director at Comcast.
So my current title is Engineering Fellow. So it's analogous to a vice president.
And I'm the VP of product for Comcast.
I'm a lab ops manager at NMS Lab.
Did you know that women make up only 34% of the STEM workforce? Women make up 15% of the engineering field and 26% of people with jobs in computer sciences. But certainly, there is no shortage of girls and women who are interested in STEM fields. These statistics are a consequence of women feeling discouraged to pursue a STEM degree due to the history of science and technology being male-dominated subjects. The amount of women who expressed interest in STEM as high schoolers is not all that different from the amount of men, but the major discrepancy comes from the amount of each gender that is able to follow through and achieve a degree.
We were gifted the chance to speak with a group of talented women over at Comcast in Philadelphia and National Medical Services Labs to ask them about their professional experiences and stories as women in STEM or STEAM fields.
When entering the STEM field, many women describe their experiences as different from their male peers. Many women have noted experiences that felt somewhat polarizing, times when being a woman caused discrepancies in the way that they were treated.
In 1970, women made up 38% of the US workers and 8% of the STEM workers in America. By 2019, the STEM proportion has increased to 27%, and women made up 48% of all workers. Although these numbers have increased over the past 50 years, there is still a lot of progress that has to be made in order to make these fields less male-dominated and more equal. There have been many initiatives over the years to encourage girls and young women to pursue their passions in STEM fields.
I definitely feel the leaky pipe problem of as you move higher and higher up in your career, there are fewer and fewer women represented. And so when I look up, I'm hard pressed to see anybody that looks like me. And to me, it just feels like there's a lot of friction and barriers that are preventing me from achieving the same support and accomplishments as my male counterparts.
I don't see a big change at that top level executive suite.
I think the only thing is what I've seen in the past is a lot of the much higher positions like CEO, the CFO normally are men.
I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. I was one of 4 women that graduated in my class of 80. I have to have twice as education. So on my resume, I have to check more boxes.
I feel like I always needed to have more receipts.
I have to have more experience. So that manifests itself time at level before I can get recognized or promoted.
I was one of the only women in my office, and I just never felt like I was taken seriously. I always felt like I had to kind of try twice as hard to prove myself so that anybody would just listen to me.
We expect or we hope to get tapped on the shoulder for things. We want to be invited in or asked. But quite frankly, a lot of companies aren't necessarily asking.
If a man could say it, sometimes they just say it and people be like, oh yeah, that sounds right. Or if they asked for receipts, it'd be too little receipts. But for me, especially earlier in my career, it felt like I needed to come with an encyclopedia. No.
Before coming to Comcast, I worked at the WWE, and before the WWE, I worked at ESPN, and both are predominantly male-centric, male-dominated. Especially ESPN, that might have been almost a bit worse.
It was basically my first co-op term or internship. You have to go through the interview process, so it was competitive, and then you have to get matched And so I was matched at a manufacturing plant that did plastic extrusions for dairy products. And there was two of us, so two co-ops, a boy and a girl, so me and my peer, and we both reported directly to the GM. So we'd have to wear steel-toed boots and hairnets, and we'd be out there doing time and motion studies. The moment happened when, so older gentleman, traditionally minded, and he came up to me while I was doing my time and motion study, and he basically asked me, like, what are you doing? Why are you here? You shouldn't be here. And I explained to him exactly why I was there. This was my job, and I was asked by the GM, like his boss's boss's boss, essentially, right? But it wasn't good enough for him that was the answer. So he literally chased me off the shop floor in tears, and I ran into the ladies' room, and there was nobody else there, obviously, because there were no other female executives or management. Along came Kathy, who was the only female executive there, happened to walk in at that time, and she was like, Melly, what's wrong? And I kind of explained to her what happened, so-and-so, just said all these really cruel things and basically told me to get out, and I shouldn't be here, even though Rob asked me to do this job, and she was like, wait, what happened and why are you in tears? And I explained to her what happened, and she said, well, it's not you, he does that to me all the time as well. We've had a couple incidents. And to me, that explanation made me feel better, because she kind of signaled, hey, you're not alone, right? This has nothing to do, it's not personal, has nothing to do with your ability and competency and execution. It just has to do with his traditional mindset that I was a woman doing an engineering job, and he didn't think that there was, that was a place for a woman. And I was like, this is not going to stop me from doing the things I want to do. I'm just going to change the system.
You walk through the hallways and they have photos of famous athletes. There's one building, one corner dedicated to women. That's it. I could see that it probably was thought of possibly by a male, because the male was like, oh, let's give them this one corner and it'll be special. But in reality, you're like, no, women should be throughout all the hallways. It should be part of the culture. You should be this is the basketball corner, and yes, here's men and women who are both influential basketball stars. Another female, when I was at ESPN, another female came to interview, and I wasn't originally on the interview panel. And my boss called me up, and he was like, I need you to step out of your meeting. I need you to come interview this person, because she flew in and she's flying back today, and she wants to speak to another female at ESPN to understand what's the culture like for women. And until that particular moment, I don't think it really dawned on me that I was one of the very few who worked at ESPN.
I had to learn really quickly to control my emotions. And for a long time, it didn't feel genuine to myself. Getting excited wasn't okay. Getting upset wasn't okay. Doing anything but being a robot wasn't okay.
Oftentimes in a room, your voice, especially if you're the only female, might not necessarily be heard. And it's not meant, when you're in that situation, you're not supposed to speak louder, which oftentimes so many women do. I'm not being heard, you're not hearing me, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting angry, and it becomes uncivil. And that becomes your brand. And that's a hard brand to shake as a woman. And so I would say learn how to influence outside the room.
I think the biggest advice is, if it's your passion, do it. I love it. I wouldn't have been here for this long doing it if I didn't love it. Regardless of what career path you choose, life is too short.
I'd love to see, if the entire board or the CEO or the CFO could be a woman. I think it's time. So, you see lots of positions in this country, the president, things like that. We just haven't had a woman yet. And I think it's time. So there's no reason why a woman can't be a CEO of a company.
There is a hopeful future for women in STEM, a bright light for many years to come.
Thank you to the amazing women who have helped pave the way for women everywhere.
We were honored to meet with such intelligent individuals with such thoughtful consideration for our project.
Melly Chow, Leslie Chapman, Sarah Adams, and Christina Long, thank you.